Well, our moms think we're funny.
I think you need to start. This is your show.
Okay, hey everyone, I'm Acomi.
Hey everyone, this is Turk182.
Yeah, so welcome to Our Moms Think We're Funny, and this one, we're not really setting out to make much of a laugher. So we've made it clear that we're not too thrilled with YouTube in recent days.
Fuck YouTube.
Fuck YouTube.
Yeah, I do understand. Like you're like, oh, that's the irony is you're using YouTube, and it's like, yeah, if I drive down my street and it's all cracked and broken and fucked up, I still have to drive down it. Doesn't mean I have to like it.
Yep.
You know, and I wish it were fixed and better, but I still have to drive down it. So you know,
Yep.
Sorry, this is a whole nother thing, but I can criticize something, and while at the same time, you know, like using it because I'm saying, hey, this is a broken thing.
I still obey the rules of the government, and I'm an anarchist. So,
right, so it's
I think that summarizes it nicely.
Yeah, YouTube is a broken thing. Just because I'm using it doesn't mean I can't acknowledge it as broken. I mean, that's I think the best way to acknowledge something if it's broken. If you don't use it, then you can't tell me if it's broken because you have no fucking idea.
Yep.
We use it.
Yep.
We don't really care for the way it's handled right now. It's a fucked up, broken piece of shit.
Yep.
It can be, and I think what makes it worse is it can be fixed.
Yeah, and they just won't.
Right. So
we'll get into all that. So I need to preface this a little bit. Now, I decided that I wanted to do this episode, and I texted Turk about this a couple days ago, as of this recording. A couple days ago, I saw on YouTube that the channel Leafy is Here got banned, hand over fist. And this has already been covered ad nauseum by a million other YouTubers. I've seen Repzilla cover it, I've seen Repzion cover it, I've seen some ordinary gamers cover it. Everybody's covered this, and I want to make it abundantly clear from the word jump here, I'm not a fan of Leafy is Here. I find his personality vapid.
What is it?
Leafy is Here?
Leafy is Here.
Yeah. You know, I'm not a fan of his. I've never enjoyed any of his stuff. He's not my style. And I just want to make that abundantly clear from the word go here that I'm not coming at this from a position of fanboyism. I'm not saying, oh, they attacked somebody that I like. I'm saying they attacked somebody I couldn't really care less about. I don't care if I never watch a Leafy is Here video as long as I live. But
I don't even know who the fuck they are.
yeah, but what I'm saying is that what happened to him is not right. And this has already been said a million times over, but I just, it's like we've been bitching about YouTube for a lot longer than these other people, so I feel like it's, this is our place to say, we were right, fuck YouTube. So basically, and this is also kind of for Turk's benefit, because like you said, you're not super familiar with the situation. So Leafy was a commentary YouTuber who would basically find people and pretty much just make fun of them. Like, not to their faces, but just make videos making fun of them.
Right.
A little bit of a bully, but,
Kind of like us with our Let's Watches.
Kinda, yeah, except about, real people with feelings.
Right.
YouTube did their policy change last year, which kind of brought about Adpocalypse 2.0, where they were like, oh, we can't do a harassment policy anymore. And YouTube typically has a strike system, and, there are other creators who have talked about this, like Repzion mentioned this, that, like, typically if they have an issue, they'll reach out to you and say, hey, we need you to fix this, we need you to remove this video or do whatever. And very often they'll do that. In the case of Leafy, they were basically like, boom, motherfucker, you have 3 strikes, your channel's gone. And when he appealed to it on Twitter, they just ignored him. And did not address it, did not hear the appeals. And in so doing, they violated their community guidelines. So that's the basic gist of what spurred this on. That's like a real Cliff Notes version here. Sorry, I was blanking on the word. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this happen from YouTube, because they did the same thing with the channel Mumkey Jones, which he's a whole, we could cover an entire podcast talking about Mumkey. And again, I'm not a fan of his. I'm not coming at this from a position of being a fan of his. The only thing I know him for is his controversy. I learned about him through the Kiwi Farms stuff. But YouTube went against their own guidelines and broke their own rules to ban his channel. So that's all that's worth saying there, is that, like, what happened with Mumkey Jones, he wasn't even doing, like, a harassment thing. He did a video mocking a school shooter, basically saying, oh, you think you're hot shit, but you're really just a piece of shit, is basically all he was doing with that. And YouTube decided, oh, well, him talking about this is worth 3 strikes, boom, channel gone forever. And it's like,
So 3 strikes not necessarily that 3 different complaints. It's like, well, we have one complaint that warrants like 3.
it's supposed to be like a strike per video. Like if I do 3 videos that offend these guidelines, then, you know, and I don't resolve it, then they shut it down. And you're supposed to have the option here. They're supposed to be able to tell you, hey, this video with this, 30-second segment here at this timestamp violates our guidelines. We need you to fix that. And when you fix it, you remove the strike, which puts you back down at 0. So it's really the only time that this should ever reach the point of banning a channel is if the creator says, yeah, fuck that, I'm not fixing it, and just keeps uploading it. And then you'll accrue 3 strikes, but that's not what happened with these people. And again, as far as Monkey Jones or Leafy is here, I don't care about either of these people as far as their content goes. I am not a fan of theirs. But what I'm saying is YouTube broke their own rules, broke their own guidelines, just for the sake of shutting them down. Right. There's clearly an agenda going on here, and it's so obvious to everybody. Everybody I've seen commentate on this has the exact same thing to say, which is, this is obviously an agenda takedown. This was a very, very targeted strike against people just because they don't like them. And, so that kind of got me thinking of, like, there's a lot of pieces of shit on YouTube, you know? There's a lot of really bad shit on YouTube, and we've talked about some of it on this podcast before, like we talked about the Elsagate thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about Diamondgate. We've talked about, like, the Finger Family things. Like, there's a lot of really sinister shit here that's kind of going on in the backworks of YouTube. And it's like, so, you're gonna destroy the channels of people. This is their livelihood. You're gonna destroy Leafy is Here's livelihood because you don't like his approach to things. You're not even gonna give him a chance to remove the offending videos, but you're gonna let this stuff go on.
And, I want to say out there, we are not, like, obviously, if you know us, you know that we're not the innocent, like the innocent channel where we're like, everything that we do is like G-rated, and it's like, no, we're not. We say things, we push boundaries, we push envelopes, generally in the sake of humor. And I understand that humor, when on top of being subjective, that, you can say very hurtful, mean things, under the guise of humor. We try to straddle that very well to be able to say, okay, we can only push things so far. We don't want to break anything. We just want to push it. And, in the name of humor. Yep. And I'm going to say this, and I know that people say that's not really an excuse, but there are things that we say, for the purpose of getting a laugh that aren't things that we technically believe.
Yeah.
And I think that should be fairly evident with when we make in other comments or podcasts that we do, where we will take the exact opposite approach, especially when we're speaking very seriously. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about these particular groups, or in your case, you're talking about these particular groups, it's not to say that we don't say things that, may be viewed as being incorrect or making certain statements. But as a whole, we have a morality, and we have what's a good word for it?
Standard?
Yeah, thank you. A standard that for us is, we are not going to, we will only go so far.
Yep.
And when we feel that we've gone too far, we'll acknowledge we've gone too far.
Yep.
And so that's the thing. It's the thing with us is that we always make statements like, well, I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to apologize for this. If I honestly felt that what I said was something that was from the heart, I was really damaging someone, I would wholeheartedly apologize.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I thought it was that bad, I wouldn't even upload it.
Right. And so one thing that just because you're going to be talking about some really bad people, and you're talking about people that have been incorrectly punished for things that they shouldn't have, but they weren't necessarily good people to begin with. But what was done to them was done in the wrong way. It's like, just because you may know somebody as a criminal, unless you like, you may know somebody that's a bad person, but you just can't say like, oh, well, this person's bad, let's go throw them in jail. Unless you catch them in the act of doing something,
right.
You can't do that because you know, so it's just not how it works.
That kind of harkens back to our police brutality thing, where it's like, even if the person's guilty as sin, that doesn't give a cop the right to kill them.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
So we do things here, and we just want to make that distinction between these people here that are one way and us who we kind of I don't want to be like, well, you guys are calling these people pieces of shit, and yeah, granted, but you guys are like them. We're not like them. We're not like them. You know.
And and again, you know, all I'm really saying about, you know, Monkey or Leafy is, you know, they're not my cup of tea. You know, I find their material vapid. If I saw them at a con, I wouldn't engage a conversation with them. That's it. I don't have any kind of agenda against them.
So because I don't know these people, I was taking them as being more of like a double, and I'm like, yeah, that's not. That's just straight up garbage.
I mean, Leafy I would kind of put on the same level as H3H3 of just like, you know, really don't care for the content.
Try not to, you know, toss that out there.
I'll throw names out there. You know, I don't appreciate their conduct. I'm not going to drop their name in the title for clicks or anything.
No, I mean, it's that kind of stuff is people like, it's completely unnecessary. I mean, they want to fire back something that's completely unnecessary. And I just, you know, it's why my social media is so limited, because I don't have time for the bullshit drama of whoever it is out there and that think that they're something more than what they are because they have a strong internet social media presence. I'm like, come on. That's like two shits in a windstorm. Nobody gives a fuck about that in the real world. I mean, I'm not going to go before the pearly gates and be like, so, yeah, you only have like 14 friends on Facebook. Afraid we can't let you into heaven. I mean, like, I tell you, like, no, I mean, come on, really. And when it comes down to it, you know, it doesn't really matter how big your social media presence is. These people don't really give a shit about you, honestly.
Yeah,
you know?
And I mean, you know, we could bring up so many people. We could talk about like, we could talk about Rice Gum. We could talk about, you know, the Paul brothers, whatever. They've all pulled shadier shit. Or, well, okay, let me amend that. They have all pulled equally as shady shit as Leafy.
Right.
I'll say that. Leafy is exactly like H3H3, and if Leafy has his channel completely annihilated for what are ultimately something that should have been given the opportunity to appeal and correct, then why is H3H3 still uploading? And this podcast is not to like target him specifically. I'm just saying, you know.
But right, so
he's no fucking saint here. That's basically what I'm saying.
Right, these are people that we don't necessarily care for their content. We don't like some of the things they do, but there's a process that's filed. And if you're abiding by those rules, then whether I like you or not, you're abiding by the rules. I can just do what I always do right now, which is not visit you.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, I like you, and but I don't really give a shit whether you exist or not, as long as you're following the rules and you're not breaking the standards and the rules that are set out there. So I guess what I was trying to say is that, you know, we're different from them, but we also abide by rules.
Yeah.
And we're not putting ourselves out there as like, I am this thing right here, and fuck everybody else.
Right.
You know,
right.
But even if they are, I'm not going to take a stand, but like, they deserve this, but if they're not breaking the rules that you put forth, you can't take any like action against them.
Right. Right.
You know? So I'm sorry, I kind of derailed this whole fucking thing. I apologize. Let's start over again.
No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine, because I think this is all very relevant. And, you know, really, I don't really want to focus. If Logan Paul has his YouTube channel, I don't give a shit. Have your YouTube channel, buddy. What I want to talk about is not just people who are violating, like, these brand new community guidelines that YouTube doesn't even want to give anybody a heads up about. I want to talk about people who are actually blatantly pieces of shit. Which is to say that you have people like Davi Vanity, who was the lead singer for Blood on the Dance Floor, who has a YouTube channel, who's regularly uploading content, who got arrested for statutory rape for sex with a minor. So, it's like, that's shit that actually reached the court of laws, but he still has a YouTube channel, which he just announced to his largely underage fans, oh hey guys, I have an OnlyFans now. So, YouTube's gonna let that shit slide.
So let me ask you a question here. I hear a lot about OnlyFans, and generally when I hear about an OnlyFans site, it's always directed at adult performers. I've never heard of anyone I mean, honestly, the only time I've ever heard that is with like an adult performer. I've never heard of I don't know, like fucking Robert Downey Jr. be like, "Hey, come visit my OnlyFans site," where I'm, like I've never heard of that. So my thought in my head is, if you say that it's for the adults, me, presenting or delivering adult entertainment to people, at a price.
Yeah.
Is there more to it than that?
I think you have to. I think that OnlyFans has the statement that you have to be 18 to sign up for it, but they also have a shit policy for confirming that too.
What I'm saying is, like, do people have OnlyFans sites like a Patreon type thing? Like, oh, come visit me on my OnlyFans site and I'll read you some of my poetry. I mean, or it's like, you can see me wash dishes. I mean, is it something else, or is it just for, hey, come look at me with me, my clothes off?
I mean, there's kinks for everything, but yeah, I think it is largely sexualized. And I told you last night about Repsion, who I enjoy Repsion's content. There's some drama going on with him that I don't want to get into right now, but by and large, I enjoy Repsion's content. But he has an OnlyFans just to upload pictures of his feet.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, and he did that as a stupid joke of like, oh, I'm gonna prove how stupid OnlyFans is, and then like people subscribed enough to where he could like buy a whole new computer or some shit like that, or a new processor for his computer. And so it's
Did he get the Possessium pursuit?
It was 1995. You don't really need one of those processorizers.
Okay.
But yeah, so like from everything I've ever seen out of OnlyFans, it is to me as an outsider, it appears to only be adult entertainment.
Okay.
But I don't really go in for that because I look at porn for free like a normal person. So
I can't. That's not. I mean, I can't. If people that I watch on YouTube that have exclusive content that are on their Patreons, and I'm not paying for that, I'm not going to be twice as much to see whatever it is you have to show me. Or like no, I can't. I won't do that. Like,
yeah,
I just the concept of it all. Like, no, not. No, like just no.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the reason I'm asking, I want to make that clear because the first thing in my mind is, like you said, here's a guy whose fan base is primarily, under a certain age level.
Yep.
And they're like, hey, I have an OnlyFans, which means to me that the only if it's if that's what it is, the only thing it's for is to show this type of content.
Yep.
Like, first off, if you are the lead singer of a band, why would you need that?
Yep.
I mean,
why? Because it's a horrible, horrible band and they can't make any money off of their shitty music. So,
but they're not really a band. I mean, that's like calling the Murder Hatchet Girls a band, right?
They're a band. I love the Murder Hatchet Girls.
They have one song that doesn't make them a band. It doesn't even make them a one-hit wonder.
That's an OnlyFans I'd sign up for. Hit me up, Murder Hatchet Girls.
I would not sign up, but I would definitely use your login. I'm just going to be honest.
But yeah, and I mean, and I want to make it clear, in this case of this Davi Vanity Clown, this isn't hearsay. This is something that made it to court. And the only reason he wasn't convicted, as I understand it, is that the girl's mother basically said, I'm not going to press charges, but don't you ever talk to my daughter again.
So I guess he does have a fan that's over the age of 18.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of respect for her mom if that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had a daughter and there was somebody that did something like that to them, I don't really care who you are or where you're from. I'm not gonna just back down and be like, yeah, just don't ever do it again.
Just promise you've learned your lesson, mister.
Right. I mean, that's. I would probably sell most of my belongings or whatever was necessary to be able to put in process whatever action I thought was necessary to make sure that you learned a lesson. Yep. And it wouldn't be, just don't do it again.
Which would be prison. Real rape you in the ass prison.
Or something else. Yeah.
But yeah, and like, he's not the only one. There's this guy, Lion Maker, in which he denies everything, but it's kind of like, it's one of those like open secrets like we have in the comics community. You know, but it's weird. He contradicts himself a lot, but he'll say, yes, I was with this...
He's a contradict.
But he'll say, like, yes, I was with this 16-year-old girl, but then he'll also say, no, we didn't do anything, but yeah, we kind of did. And it's like, well, make up your goddamn mind, dude. But he's just a Minecraft YouTuber. And it's like, okay, well, if you're doing Minecraft videos, you've got a young fan base. And if it's reaching, like, news coverage where multiple news websites are talking about you going to jail or going to court for these things, then why the fuck do you still have a YouTube channel? If YouTube is gonna look at somebody like Monkey saying, oh, jokes about school shooting and suicide, that's too edgy. The advertisers aren't gonna like that, so we're gonna shut your channel down, hand over fist. But you're gonna let Lion Maker and Davi Vanity keep their channels. It's so fucking contradictory that it drives me crazy, and this is why I'm, like, so completely over YouTube at this point. That, like, as a corporation, as an entity, they're just evil, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, I probably shouldn't say this on the podcast. I just had this like thought. So we both know, and this is kind of going to some of the things that you're talking about here. We both know that the YouTube algorithm is a big steaming pile. I would call it shit, but shit can be used as fertilizer to grow good things. This is a big steaming pile of non-degradable plastic that has been irradiated with a half-life of like 2.8 million.
Yep.
You know? Like, it's just going to exist forever and nothing can ever be done with it. And you really just need to stay as far away from it as possible. Mm-hmm. That's what their algorithm is. But the algorithm uses certain things to be able to say, you know, this is what we consider, like, content, or, this, you know, like, it's good content. This is what we're going to promote. This is what we consider bad. And it also, to my understanding, that algorithm is also what says that we're going to promote this because this has... is attached to a certain demographic. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned like Minecraft. So right now, I just think that Minecraft needs to have an age limit on it. For Minecraft, for you to play Minecraft, it needs to have an age limit on it. If you are above the age of 25, you should not be able to play Minecraft. That's it. That's my ruling right there.
I like Minecraft.
Or as it was called in Germany, Minecraft.
Minecraft. 999. Diamonds!
So, but you're talking about, like, the guy, the one guy, was it Mumkey?
Yeah,
you know,
Monkey Jones.
Yeah, his videos, you know, like, well, the algorithm is like, this is not going to be good for ads because it's not. But some of these other people that still have channels you're going to mention, it's going to sound really bad. From a demographic perspective, there are the key words in there which would then generate traffic on a large scale. Mm-hmm. So, in that case, the algorithm works in their favor because even though what they're saying and promoting is wrong, they're hitting these spots that are generating the keywords that would then technically, as far as the algorithm goes, pull in a large audience.
So, as I understand, what you're basically saying is that even though what these people are saying and doing is absolute shit, that because it's getting views, YouTube's okay with it because that's still, as far as they're concerned, advertiser friendly.
Well, not just that, but because like one of the I don't really want to bring them into it, but I don't want to mention it by name. But so let's say that I did
Rhymes with.
No, I was saying, it's actually, it was a channel I like, but I don't want to bring them into it.
Yeah, no.
But let's say that I have a channel where I talk about exercise. Let's say I have an exercise channel, which people are like, we know you don't have no exercise channel. Let's say I had an exercise channel, and because I have an exercise channel, it's going to have certain keywords.
Yep.
And those keywords may be like, fitness, athletics, or just within that's going to fall within that base, and that's going to bring in certain people. Yep. So let's say because of that, it has what's a good cardio, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe because it says like I say with cardio, that is connected to other things that may not necessarily be fitness based, but it's still going to bring that stuff in because I'm not talking about that, but the keywords are going to pull that to it as well. That's a big demographic, even though it's not specifically that thing.
Yeah.
So the thing that some of these people that still have channels that shouldn't have channels, there is a key word amongst that is a large demographic of YouTube. Even though they're not actually people going to it though, but it hits upon that point.
I get that, but I'll talk about that in a second. I'll respond to that in a second. Because that kind of feeds into something I'm just going to bring up in passing. We talked about this pretty extensively off mic. I don't want this shit on my podcast, so to speak, so I'm not going to talk about it too extensively, but I am going to say, and this will feed into what you're talking about here, there are pro-pedophile channels on YouTube. There are openly these people are showing their faces, giving their names, you can identify who these people are, and they're advocating and defending this kind of thing. And I'm not talking about, like, a 17-year-old, 19-year-old. I'm saying, these people are pushing for pedophilia with small children. And it's extremely fucking disturbing. It's vile. It's way too much. I know one channel is a woman named Jen. She's been covered by Repsion. She's been covered by Blair White. I mean, there's eyes on this, and I bring those names up for a very specific reason that I'll get into in a bit. Not to say yay or nay towards either of those parties, but there's another channel, OmniPolitics 16, that pushes and advocates for this. And I don't want people to go find this and give this shit views, but it's just like, it's here, it's in the open, and this is where I'm gonna tie this into to what we're talking about with these other channels, where it's like, yeah, these guys still have it because they're feeding into the algorithm, but I bring this up to say, there are eyes on these things. People have known who Davi Vanity is for years. People have known who Onision is for years. People now know who these pro-pedophilia channels are, and we can say, oh, it's a broken algorithm, it's really, really a piss-poor algorithm, whatever, but the fact is, there are eyes on it, and I refuse to believe that YouTube or Team YouTube or whoever hasn't seen this stuff by now. Because at the end of the day, say what you like about any of these parties, Repsion has a shit ton of subscribers. He has a shit ton. Repzilla has a shit ton of subscribers. Blair White has a shit ton of subscribers. These are people who have brought attention to these channels and to these problematic people. Team YouTube can look past the algorithm and say, there's a lot of views on this shit. People know what's going on. We can do something about this. And they've elected not to. Now, they've elected to ignore the algorithm and move past things to shut down channels like Leafy, but they're not going to ignore the algorithm and move past the community guidelines to say, oh, this is what they're talking about. Well, there are children in my life. I don't really find this to be okay. I mean, it's, that to me is what crosses the line for me, and this is why I was saying this isn't really going to be a funny episode. To me, it is beyond disgusting that YouTube can turn a blind eye to that, because I refuse to believe, and people can say, oh, there's literally millions of videos uploaded to YouTube every day, which I'm aware of, I know that, and there's no way that they can review all of those videos, and I get that, but when enough people
didn't stop them from shoving their finger up my ass,
right? Yeah, they can sure target our stuff, but when enough people, when you have, between 3 channels, probably over 2.5 million subscribers, if I had to venture a guess. I'm not going to look up their statistics right now. But if I had to guess, between those 3 channels I mentioned, there's been over 2 million views on it. Somebody at Team YouTube has to be aware of these channels that I'm talking about. And they have to know, this person has done A, B, and C, their content is being sold as being child-friendly, and there's advertiser dollars on it.
And so I think that and this is a horrible thing to say, but and I honestly think that it's probably a real statement is YouTube made that change where they were saying that if your channel is marketed or aimed at children, that you need to do these things right here. You need to put it there. That way, it could be, I guess, separated from stuff that wasn't, so the kids wouldn't, I guess, accidentally like find their way to it.
Yeah.
So
I don't want kids watching my stuff.
no, I mean, yeah, our stuff is not aimed at children. But I think what I'm saying is that if these people that are saying this stuff, they're like, well, but I'm not targeting my stuff at them. This is out there for adults. Mm-hmm. So, so it's like I'm following by your rules there. Yeah. Even though I'm saying it's about this right here, it'd be like me having a channel about 10-year-old birthday parties, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not aimed at children. But obviously, though, we're talking about birthday parties for 10-year-olds. Of course, it's gonna attract that. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm saying, but that's not what I'm going for. This is an adult conversation about 10-year-old birthday parties. But no, that's
right.
Like, it'd be like me having a channel about dogs and then saying, but we're actually not going to talk about dogs. But what?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
And that kind of shit does violate YouTube's community guidelines, which they're so proud of having. And, I mean, again, this is my beef with YouTube. This is me saying, why are you allowing this shit on your platform, YouTube? And, it's like, shit, I would love to have an actual conversation with Susan Wakiki, or Wachiki, or however she pronounces her name. I don't know, it's lots of J's and C's. It's like, why... why are you basically simping for someone like Pokimane or H3H3 and saying, oh, well, somebody bullied you, so we're going to completely obliterate their channel, but it's like, but you have actual child predators on your platform. What the fuck here? It's, I don't know, it's like, and I know we've talked a lot about, police activity and stuff, but that is like watching a cop beat the stuffing out of somebody and arresting somebody for, jaywalking when there's a fucking bank robbery going on right down the block.
Right. It's like the police officer sitting right there. Here's someone being beaten, and then here's a guy littering, and you're gonna go after the litterer.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
while the guy's beating up the other guy's like, hey, that guy's littering.
Well, let me get right on that. It's like, what has to be wrong with you? How fucking, colorblind do you have to be to not see this as a serious problem? And it's driving me crazy. And it's like, I'd much rather talk about, good shit, good creators on YouTube, It's like there's people who deserve to have more eyes on them. There's people who are, making the world a better place through the platform.
But I want to try and be funny.
Yeah. But, instead, I feel like we have to bring attention to this, because basically, I would love for YouTube to hear this podcast. And I would love for them to hear from me saying, even though we don't have a lot of views, we don't have a lot of listeners or subs on YouTube, we've got, a bigger following on other podcast platforms. But it's like, let me just say, as a creator with not much of a pony in this race, and it's like, we're not making money off of YouTube, and we don't intend on ever doing so. But, just like, hey YouTube, fuck you. Fuck you that you're going to publicly go through the razzle-dazzle of saying, oh, look at how great we are because we shut down this channel for bullying. But it's like you've got this fucking snake's nest right here that you know about. You can't tell me that YouTube doesn't know about it. That's my whole thing here, is that you cannot pretend that they don't know about it, because they know what their big creators get up to. Yeah. They know, especially after all the controversy, they know what PewDiePie uploads. They know what the Paul brothers upload. There's been so much controversy that they're going to keep an eye on their bigger creators. So when you have big creators saying, hey YouTube, why does this shit exist? Why haven't you taken action yet? It's just, it's beyond me. It's completely beyond me.
And I don't really give a shit whether or not you're keeping an eye on these people if you don't plan on doing anything. The whole purpose of keeping an eye on somebody is so when they do something that's out of line, is that you correct that.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to sit there and watch me like, hey, that shit was funny, then I don't really need you to keep an eye on it. I mean, you haven't done anything.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's just so frustrating because it's like, yes, we've been targeted by the YouTube algorithm ourselves, and that's not what this is about. But it's like, so you guys
in a way it is,
in a way it is, yeah.
Because like YouTube is focusing on stuff that we did, that we didn't actually do anything wrong, but people that are doing something wrong, you're going to be like, no.
Yeah, I mean, so yes, in a way it is, because it's like, so you can give us a copyright strike based off of the title of one of our videos. You clearly didn't review it, or you would have known that we did not violate any copyright. Every single thing we did was under fair use, was transformative, totally fine.
And yes, we're back on that again.
Yes, we're gonna stay on that. I would happily take that to a court of law and have that video play in a court of law and say, this is fair use. I'm totally fine with that.
Fuck you like your mother's uncle.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like, so you guys can be so Johnny on the spot that you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna shut this shit down and give it a strike before it ever even posts. But look at what you have on there. Look, you know, hey, somebody listening to this, take the link to this podcast, send it over to Team YouTube, and let them hear about what's going on their platform. Like,
I'm sure the only thing I'll hear is that we don't like them and we think they're a piece of shit, and you'll be like, oh, okay, well, thanks for letting us know these people need to be canceled.
Right?
And I'll be like, okay, well, fuck you very much.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, at this point, here's the thing. YouTube, if you're listening to this, when you guys shut down a channel for bullying, but you let pedophile apologists keep uploading videos on the regular, it doesn't make you look like white knights. It doesn't make you look like heroes. It kind of just makes you look like pedophile sympathizers. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to get all Elon Musk on you here, but...
I mean, far be it from me to dish out false accusations, and, you know, I'm not a fan of cancel culture. I'm not a fan of fucking up somebody's career over false accusations, but when you know this shit's going on, and you make the conscientious decision not to fix it, not a good look for you. That's all I'm saying.
You know, we're doing what's that thing I'm thinking of? We're doing what you say that you're supposed to be doing, which is giving you an opportunity to fix yourself.
Yeah.
So let's just say right now, YouTube, you have 2 strikes.
I don't know.
Unless, of course, you think that you're so big that you don't really give a shit and people will use you anyway because they don't feel like they have any other option, when really they do. They just have to band together and say, we have other options because you need us more than we need you. Mm-hmm. And because, let's say, it's just, I mean, YouTube is just a smaller, I guess maybe even bigger or same size representation of the real world, where you've got the, God, it's going to sound very political, but you've got the 1% of YouTubers that make a shit ton of money, and you got a bunch of other people that don't make dick, if anything, that continue to put stuff out there. So clearly most people aren't getting very much out of it, and they don't really technically need your platform for anything. Like, we don't need YouTube. We use it, but we don't need YouTube because we don't get shit out of it.
I mean, and the thing is, YouTube doesn't make a lot of money. From what I understand, and I could be completely wrong about this.
Don't they lose like millions of dollars every year?
From what I understand, they do. And like I said, you know, if somebody with actual economic knowledge, feel free to correct me on that if I'm wrong. But from what I understand, yeah, they lose money. So it's like, can you really afford to make such an ass of yourself that there's a mass exodus from YouTube?
If you're losing that kind of money, right, why would you want to continue to lose that kind of money while promoting channels that be like, hey, this is okay?
Right?
I mean, like, if you and I just suddenly wanted to create our own channel where we're going to, like, do, like, Asian bashing, right? And that's all we were going to do. And, like, how long would that last? And would they be like, no, this is fine? Yeah. Have you met these guys over here? They like kids. You like Asians. Asians like little people, right? Yeah, just put the 2 of you together. You know, it's just more clicks. I mean, the thing is, if you're saying something that is just plain wrong, and it needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And don't give me that whole like freedom of speech shit stuff, because we're not talking about a freedom of speech. We're talking about you promoting something that is just damn wrong.
Yeah.
If I told like we were joking in one podcast about the was it the Set Your Grandma on Fire challenge, right?
Oh, yeah.
If that was really a challenge that we promoted,
challenge.
right? We need to be stopped for that. If that was really something we were saying that this is something we think you should do.
Well, the thing is, people contradict themselves on this, and YouTube contradicts itself on this, because they'll say, oh, we're a private entity, we can shut down Monkey Jones if we want. Okay, but it's like, okay, but then, you know, when we call out this pedophile shit, then people are going to say, oh, freedom of speech, you have to accept the good with the bad with freedom of speech. It's like, I thought YouTube was a private entity. I thought they could shut down whoever they wanted for whatever reason they wanted.
Right.
So, once again, that's just a bad look for YouTube.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, that's just a bad look for YouTube. I mean, you know, if I stand up and like start spouting Nazi propaganda, I'm like, hey, anybody disagree with me? Correct me if I'm wrong. If nobody takes that opportunity to correct me if I'm wrong,
right,
then I mean that's kind of a bad look for you.
So it's like this: when you go to a wedding and they say, you know, if anyone opposes this, and speak now, forever hold your peace, and you know they shouldn't be together, and you don't say shit. When they get divorced 2 years later, you're just as guilty. Because you had an opportunity to say something. Whether they listen to you or not, you had the opportunity to say something. Now, granted, you can't just kick everybody out the church, right? But you have the opportunity to say something. If you're not saying something, right, you're just as guilty. You're culpable.
Yep.
YouTube is culpable. And again, we're not talking about things that are flying under the radar they're not aware of. We're talking about things that are being actively told to them, hey, this is going on. Mm-hmm. These people are promoting this on your platform, right? It's like if someone comes in and wants to stick some kind of like political sign in my front yard. No.
Right.
That's not what I'm promoting here. You know, get that weak shit off my lawn. You know, I have the right to do that. If I don't, then people are going to assume, oh, you're for this.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I never blamed YouTube for the under the radar shit. I never specifically blamed YouTube for the Elsagate stuff. You know, it's like, okay, well, I get why that would fly under the radar. It's flown under the radar of millions of parents, too. And, you know, and really, at the end of the day, that kind of falls on the parents for not paying more attention to what their kids are watching.
I gotta know, I don't remember Elsagate.
Elsagate was like those weird, freaky Spider-Man and Elsa videos that, like, show up on kids' channels. And they wind up normalizing a lot of really creepy shit. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah. And, like, it plays off as, like, oh, here's just, like, weird humor, but then, like, Spider-Man eats his own shit. And it's like, oh, Spider-Man, you're so silly. And then, like, there was one video from, like, a weird animation channel where, like, baby Elsa gets sold into slavery.
Yes.
And it's like, it's normalizing some freaky ass shit. And like, you know, I didn't say, you know, YouTube's a problem here because, you know, ultimately people started calling attention to it and it did, you know, YouTube did take that down. And it's like, okay, well, you know, that was a good move. But now it's like, now you have a much bigger thing going on here. This is your chance to step up and actually show that you as a corporation stand for something real. And
unless, of course, you don't. And that's the message you want to get across. In which case, hey, good job, 10-10.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
wouldn't visit you again.
You know, I mean, for a long time I've said that, you know, YouTube cares more about like the advertisers than they do about their creators, and you know, I don't think even they would disagree with that. But now it's like, oh well, it's pretty obvious that you care more about advertisers than you do about safety or morality or goodness or standards of any sort. So really, just fuck you.
So actually, to kind of add to that. You know, I watch YouTube on occasion on several different platforms. You know, sometimes I'll watch it through my cable box. Sometimes I'll actually put it up on the computer. I'll watch it on my phone. It depends on what it is I'm looking for. A lot of times it's like I'm sending somebody like a clip of something or whatever it is. So I'm sorry. I like my phone, maybe directly through YouTube on my laptop or through my Apple TV or my cable box, right? So
right.
And I noticed that depending on how I was like viewing it, I would have an ad. So if I was watching through the app on my cable box, there would just be an ad just randomly inserted right in the middle of whatever I was watching. Not something super long, maybe like 10, 15 minutes. But then maybe 3 minutes in, it would be like this ad just kind of forced in. The person's talking, and all of a sudden, it's just like, bang, it just cuts to this ad.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
what were we watching last night where it was like an ad every 30 seconds?
It was Fanboy Flicks.
Yeah.
You know, Weird Moves with Mark. And so I was like, oh, it must be because I'm watching it through the app on my cable box. So, but it doesn't happen when I'm watching it through the app on my phone. It doesn't happen when I'm watching through Apple TV, generally speaking. So, I was showing you something last night on the laptop, and it did it again. And this time it's directly through the YouTube website.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Now this isn't just. I thought maybe it was because I was watching it, through the Apple and cable, and so cable was like, well, you're not really watching our content. You're using YouTube, so we're gonna toss these ads in there. I don't know what I was thinking, but I figured it wasn't really associated with them. But then it happened last night directly through the website. And I'm like, wait a minute. You guys are just forcing in ads, and it was like 3 ads, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more than that.
And like throughout this 15-minute video, they were just forced in there. There weren't any clear cuts or breaks for it. They were just shoved in there right as the middle of the person's talking. It cuts to an ad, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. It doesn't appear to me that this is something that the person set up for. Like, right. Oh, I'm going to have like a mid-sequence ad, so I'm going to make sure I set things up for it or whatever it is. They're just kind of like just randomly shoved in there. So that makes me think that this is just something that YouTube is just like, oh, I'm just going to drop some ads in there right in the middle of your content.
Yep. So since you're bringing us the views anyway, we're just going to profit off of that.
Right. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Now, it's one thing for us to have an agreement, but you just can't. That'd be like if I was on stage, like, doing Shakespeare, and then because I'm in the theater, just randomly a theater person can come up there and be like, anybody need any popcorn? Everybody good? Okay, all right, let's go back. And it's like, alas, poor York, I knew him. Oh, by the way, this Shakespeare performance has been brought to you by your local Chevy Chrysler dealership. Would you like to hear more? Okay, now I'm gonna go. I mean, it's like they're not right in the middle. You're just taking advantage of shit. And again, I thought it was just the thing, but when it happened directly through the website, I'm like, that leads me to believe this is YouTube just forcing that shit in there, which again is like, you care more about ads than this.
Yep.
And I don't know what their agreement is, but I'd like to think that a person wouldn't say, I'm going to upload my videos. Please, in the middle of it, just take focus away from it to shove an ad in there.
Yeah. For
someone to 3 seconds later to click and say, no, thank you, take me back to where I want to go.
Yeah.
But it's long enough for you to get a little bit of dollar change in your pocket, so you're like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I know with some of those mid-roll ads, you can choose where it comes in, because I've seen some YouTubers put those in very clever places.
I would expect that you could.
Yeah, and they'll set up cliffhangers. They'll say, and what do you think is about to happen next? And then an ad pops up, or probably one of the funniest I've ever seen was when one of Repsion's videos where he was commenting on Onision. Onision had made a video calling out Repsion for monetizing his videos about him. He's like, I'm tired of this guy making money off of the videos he makes about me. And then he put in a mid-roll ad. It's like, that's funny. I can get behind that. But yeah, no, it's becoming increasingly clear to me, and it's just so weird because YouTube wants to try to personalize themselves and try to make it seem like, oh, we're individuals, we're here to interact with you. You have Susan Wachiki, actually going and meeting with so many of these creators, and I know she's met up with H3H3. I don't know who all else she's met up with, but she's actually talking to these big name creators. It's like you can't pretend to be involved and then let shit like this go on. Because, eventually, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I have too much faith in humanity to say this, but I feel like eventually shit's gonna get bad enough with YouTube that there will be some kind of mass exodus. That eventually people are gonna say, you know what, this isn't worth it when we can get something somewhere else.
I completely agree.
And so, I mean, maybe I'm overly optimistic to say that I foresee that happening someday, but I guess what I will amend that to is that it needs to happen someday. There needs to be, and God, now I sound like I'm just talking about anarchy, but we need to hit that point where there are enough people saying, this isn't okay.
Well, I mean,
this is where the line has to be drawn.
There always has to be a check and balance in everything. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I hope people don't take this the wrong way. I know someone will. But I've always said, and I'm still a firm believer in it, which is everybody needs their ass kicked, once in a while. just to keep you on course.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Because you're like, somebody's like, that person needs to get their ass kicked. Everybody needs to have their ass kicked once in a while just to keep them on course, remind them, of what's right and what's wrong, and be like, yeah, shit, a V8 would have been better, but no, thank you for punching me in the mouth. But that only works if the person's going to learn something from it.
Yep.
and unfortunately, we don't have a check and balance system when it comes to YouTube. It's YouTube or nothing, you know. And there needs to be something that forces them to behave the way they're supposed to behave. Otherwise, they'll just do whatever the hell they want. And we see that too often when things get too big. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day because, you know, when Disney Plus dropped, they've been editing a lot of their movies. Yep. Like they edited Splash and took out just the bare butt. Like, who gives a shit about that? I mean, a lot of people were saying, you know, that I never really paid attention to that until you edited it, because then it just stood out to me.
Yep.
And they've edited a lot of other things. You're like, well, why? Like, that's unnecessary. These things have existed for so long. Why now are you finding it necessary to edit these things?
Yeah.
And then, you know, Disney is huge. Disney is really, I mean, they've got like the Fox library, they've got their own catalog, they've got the Marvel, they've got all these things. And it's one of those things where they're gonna get bigger. And what eventually happens is that when you don't have any other place to go, they can start doing whatever they want. They can start dictating the content that you have. So right now, you've got a lot of different entities around there, like streaming services, and like cable and movies or whatever, that you have a variety to a sense where I need to stay equal to them, because if I change too much from them, then, and you don't like it, then you'll just go to them, you won't come to me. Mm-hmm. But as those start to dwindle away, then I control the narrative. And I can start putting out content that it's only what I want you to have and see, and you don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah.
But that. And then that changes everything that you perceive to be what I want you to perceive, because you don't get any opposing views. You don't get any other outside look at things, no matter what it is. And I'm not saying that Disney's going to do that. I'm just saying that you have that with anything that gets that big. Mm-hmm. If I don't want you to see R-rated movies, then I won't have them. That won't make them anymore, and you won't see them anymore. Or I'll edit them all down to they're no longer like that. Yep. If I don't think that, movies with people over the age of 40 are viable, then you won't have any.
Yep.
And then it'll be like these people don't exist at all, or they're like they don't have they're useless in our society because you're not seeing them depicted in any way. But that's what happens when you have something that is so big that it dominates the field. And that's what YouTube is. YouTube is so big that it dominates the field that they seem like, well, we're the only streaming service around, so it doesn't really matter how much you complain. We're going to do whatever we want to do, and if what we want to do is nothing, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing that's going to make me fall in line because you don't have anywhere else to go. And again, we complain about this, but we could leave YouTube any fucking day. Mm-hmm. We don't get that many hits. We don't get anything really from it. So we really don't care whether they like us or not, because we sure as hell don't like them.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't get anything out of it. And the thing is, if we got big enough that it warranted us having some kind of money, right? I wouldn't accept it. I don't want your fucking money. Getting your money is accepting that your practices and the way you handle things are proper, and they're not. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to do it. So that's just it. I mean, it's me kind of giving my little rant here. But the thing is, again, they can change. They should change,
but they won't.
Right. And if we don't make them change, then if we don't give them a reason to change, then they won't do it.
Yeah, and I've heard so many creators over so many years, and it's even before like Adpocalypse, people are always talking about, there are other video hosting services that you can go to, but every creator I've ever heard talk about that immediately shuts it down by saying, yeah, but YouTube is where the crowd is. YouTube is where you're going to get a following. And it's like, that's because you're enabling it.
Right.
That's the reason the following is theirs, and this is kind of like the whole like issue with the voting system too. It's like you say that this is the only option because you've made it the only option. Because you and everyone else thinks, oh well, I have to stay with YouTube because that's where the views are. Or in the case of the viewers, it's like, well, I have to stay with YouTube, that's because that's where the videos are. It's like, but if everybody just kind of gets on the same page here and says, wait a minute, we can just go here, where they don't promote this kind of bullshit.
Right.
Where they don't fuck over their creators for zero reason. And it's like, and I'm not gonna deny that, like, what Leafy did or what Monkey did was against community guidelines. What I'm gonna deny is the fact that YouTube followed their policy, because they didn't. It's like, yeah, they broke community guidelines, so what you do then, what your step then, is to say, hey, wanted to bring this to your attention so you can fix it. you definitely don't say, oh, hey, 1, 2, 3, you're out, boom, ha, fuck you. You can't do that. That's like the shittiest thing in the world to do. So, yeah. We're actually an hour in. I thought this was going to be
Holy shit.
Yeah, I thought this was going to be a shorter podcast, but I mean, this is something, it's pretty rare for me to just, like, maintain a state of being upset throughout the day. But the more I've seen out of this stuff, the more upset I've been over a period of a few days. And so, I mean, that's why I texted you about it in the first place, was to say, you know, this is really upsetting to me. It's really upsetting knowing that, oh, you know, YouTube will take action when it's really easy for them to take action.
You know, and I'm not advocating that these other channels that were shut down need to be brought back. I don't know about them. I don't care about them. You know, I was about to say no offense to you, but I don't really care if they take offense, because then I don't know about them. I don't care about them. You can take all the offense you want. You can have my offense too. I don't give a shit. But just make sure that I'm not saying bring them back, but put that same action towards the other people too.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, you're not, like, whatever it is that you're doing doesn't make any sense to anybody.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this, for any of these other big places out here, I know you probably think you're untouchable because you've got X amount of subscribers and blah, blah, blah. But if they can take that action against you against them without having any real reason for it, they can take it against you too. And don't think because you're big that this going to stop them, because if they take that action against you, that also gives them leverage to say, if you want to come back, here's our new arrangement.
Yep.
You know, these are the strong arm tactics that you've seen all over the place. You know, so, and I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it can. So no matter who you are, you're never too big.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you're not going to look out for people, you know, that, you know, for whatever it is that you're using, if you're not going to make sure that the rules are being abided for by everybody, just remember that those things can also be applied to you whenever they want.
Yep. Yep. The rules need to apply everywhere that they apply, or they need to be left off. But yeah, it's been very, very disheartening seeing YouTube's true colors. Because, you know, I always, or once upon a time, I always thought that, like, that YouTube was a pretty solid platform, and that, you know, it would be something that, you know, I would not have minded becoming a full-time YouTuber. Really. But,
you know, I wouldn't have minded becoming a full-time YouTuber as well. With the one exception is, I wouldn't mind it becoming a full-time YouTuber. God, I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Like, to do like the things okay, so I know it's in my head. I'm trying to get it out there. I think it would have been fine to do that. You know, if I could make a living off of that. But actually make a living, like working, like I'm doing a YouTube show, like something like, let's say something like Bat in the Sun, right? Mm-hmm, yeah. We have a YouTube channel, we're making a living off of that, and
like production values,
right, we're working hard, and we're putting this stuff out there, as opposed to people that are like, oh hey, let me just jump on a camera with a microphone and just put out some shitty content that takes me all like 30 minutes of like non-hard work and now making a living off of it. Like, no, whatever it is I do, I want to earn it. Right. You know, I want to work for it. I know there's people like, oh yeah, you know, it's like, of course you do. No, I want to earn it. If I'm working, I want to earn it.
Yeah, yeah.
If it's being, you know, like YouTube and making a living off of that, fine, but I have to be earning it.
Right.
That's what's important to me, is that I earn it. That when I look back and I was like, I worked hard for this. For whatever it is I have, I worked hard to achieve that. Not just I sat down there and it came easy to me, and look at me. Now I'm like, you know, 28 years old and I'm making $100,000 a year by like, you know, like 2 times a day uploading some shitty 30-ass minute video where I'd be like, oh, this is bullshit, man. And it was like, wait, they now they have 300 Pokemon? Like, oh, this one they just look like a chair. Oh, look at chair Pokemon. And it's like, I'd rather have Shoe from Pachinkomon. No, that's, you're not doing anything to earn that.
Right,
I want to
right.
earn it. I want to look at it. I want to say, I earned this.
Yeah, and once upon a time that would have been my vision. I would have liked to have seen the channel grow to doing that kind of thing, and now like I don't want to monetize on YouTube. I don't want to get my money from them. I don't want to be associated with them. Now I would love to have a conversation with Susan Wachiki. I better make sure I learn how to pronounce her name right before I do that, but I would love to have a conversation with her just to be able to say, what the hell, lady?
I'm going to tell you right now.
What is your company doing here?
I'm going to tell you right now, you can sit down with her, either in person or virtually, and you can talk to her, but you will never have a conversation with her.
No.
And you're never going to have an exchange of ideas and dialogue with her. All you will have are words being given, and maybe one of you is listening, but I'm pretty sure it's not her.
Yeah.
So you would never have a conversation with her.
I would agree with that. And, that is really disheartening. But yeah, no, I mean, I think we can just bring it right back down to what we started with, and that is, fuck YouTube. They can do better. They know better, they are capable of doing better, and the fact that they are not doing better, well, then, in that case, fuck them. So.
Yeah. And, I don't know. I think that YouTube created a precedent that it wasn't, that I don't think it was intended for, but I think that a lot as it started to swell, people just thought that this was the way to go, and they just leaned into it and was like, yep, this is the way to do it, and that is you can become rich and famous, or let's say well off and famous by doing nothing.
Yep.
And so many people gravitated towards that. It was like, wait a minute, I'm a 20-something year old person that has no real skills and likes to, run my mouth and do stupid shit that I might think is funny. And it's like, so I want to be rich and famous by doing absolutely nothing. And it happened with so many people that YouTube became this thing. Was like, hey, would you like to be the next? And then so many people just jumped on there. I was like, yeah. And it's like, there's a microphone and camera on my shitty ass laptop. Let's go to YouTube. And it's like, here's
a Logitech webcam and a Walmart mic.
Yeah, it's like, here's the mic for my karaoke machine. And, and it's like, well, now I can be, the next YouTube star. That's, yeah. And even with, what was the guy from, hold on. I gotta get her back around to it. God bless America. I hate it when it's like, now it's like I go to think about something and every other thing pops into my head except for Journey. There we go.
Huh.
The guy from Journey. If I'm not mistaken, the lead singer of Journey now was found on YouTube.
Yep.
Singing. But he wasn't, to my knowledge, he wasn't putting himself out there, but like, Journey, come look at me, I can sing. And it was like, hey, I'm singing, I want to post my stuff out here. Or somebody posted out there for him, and he got seen and picked up. As opposed to people like, look at me, I could be the next Disney Channel, star. Yep. I'm 28 years old, but I can play a 14-year-old. I mean, that's not how it goes, but obviously that's how every Disney Channel star is, and it's like, wow, look at her. She's our new up-and-coming thing. She's going to be starring in this new, junior high drama, and she's 38. And it's like, but no, I mean, it's like now people are purposely putting themselves out there to be like, I'm the next thing. And it's like, yeah, but you remember that 10 years ago that was possible. Now it's not, because you've got 80 million other people that are out there saying, I'm the next thing.
Yep. The platform has changed too much for that kind of thing anymore. And what is happening with YouTube is the same thing that happened with the indie comics in the 90s, which was that, everybody decided at the same time, oh, I could be the next Ninja Turtles. So everybody started doing shitty black and white self-published comics. And once everybody who originally bought Ninja Turtles realized, oh wait, these aren't good. then people stopped buying anything that was black and white and self-published because it was like, oh, well, it's not going to be good.
Right.
And so that's kind of what has happened with the face of YouTube, was that initially, yeah, you had some people who were pretty, like, talented, pretty creative, and you had people realizing, oh yeah, this Markiplier guy's got some chops or whatever. And then somewhere along the way, everybody decided, oh, I can do that, I can be the next PewDiePie. And now we're just oversaturated with a bunch of people screaming into microphones and saying nothing at all.
And YouTube is just eating it up, being like, yeah, I mean, they're obviously not openly saying, yeah, you can be, but they're like, yeah, come on.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's eating it up so much that they're also allowing all the creepy shit that goes on too.
And they're constantly promoting these other people, almost in a way of saying, look, it's like, you can still be one of them. You can still be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's garbage, but you know, it's almost an Ouroboros. You know, almost. It's not quite there. It's, instead of eating its own tail, it's eating its own shit. You know, it's like hasn't quite made it to the tail, but it thinks it's there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how bad it has to be before YouTube just starts catching on. It's like this is a really bad look. This is a really bad look for you, and I wish things were different.
Well, I think had they not been bought by Google, I think it probably would have been different.
I think so. I do think that's when things really started to get quite a bit shittier with YouTube. And, you know, there's always going to be assholes on any platform, anywhere. It's going to happen. It's inevitable, because people are assholes. I get that.
It's kind of 80% of what I am.
Yeah, I got an 80% asshole.
Yeah, I got a really small tank, but I got a huge asshole.
But yeah, it's like, you know, I guess, like, you know, this episode would have never happened if YouTube would just be fucking consistent. But instead, it's like, oh, we're gonna punish the ever-loving shit out of this guy, but, you know, here's this guy having sex with a goat, and hey, that's okay.
Yeah.
But boy, we showed that bully a thing or two. It's like, what? What? What?
Who gives a shit about goats? The only thing they're good for is eating or fucking. I mean, YouTube. Yeah, so, you know, hey, that's it, man. I mean,
yeah.
And we're, like you said earlier, it's like this happens to so many people on a regular basis, and their focus is in all the wrong places. And the thing is, they could be stronger and they could be better, and if they actually tried, if they gave a damn.
If they gave a damn, it always comes back to people just giving a damn with us, just fucking care. So, yeah. So this has been not a very fun episode, but we've talked before that, like, sometimes we just need to talk about stuff that we're passionate about, and this is something that has really weighed on me, so I really wanted to do an episode on it. But I'm going to throw this out there because we're not just going to have this uploaded onto YouTube. We will have this on Pandora, Spotify,
yeah, wherever else.
Apple Music, anywhere you can get podcasts.
Yep.
So people will know. I'll say this: if this particular podcast, or if the channel ever gets completely taken down outside of our own volition, people will know, and that's going to be an even worse look for YouTube. And so
I'm not going to challenge them and say, you know, oh, I dare you to do it. I mean, that doesn't do anything for me. But it's like, if it does, you're only gonna prove that everything we've said is right.
Yeah. You know? I mean, that's all I'm saying.
And leaving us up doesn't prove that we're wrong. It really doesn't prove anything. But taking us down just proves that we're right.
Yep. So, and I don't. It's not like I don't think anybody from Team YouTube's even gonna listen to this. So it's not like I anticipate them hearing this and be like, oh, I'll shut their channel down.
No, what they'll do is they'll probably say that will give us a copyright strike because someone else has already complained.
Yep.
And that this complaint was just stolen from somebody else's complaint.
Oh, so you have 30 seconds of silence here. That belongs to Stephen Hawking. Okay, fuck you too. So, but yeah, sorry that we're shy on the laughs with this one, folks, but yeah, I mean, like, if anybody's not already aware of the kind of shit that YouTube is endorsing and allowing, I just wanted to bring it to your attention, because why should I be the only one who's mad about this? That's it.
Yep. Oh, hell, YouTube.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for giving us a listen. Check us out on the other platforms. It's better than listening to us on YouTube.
And that's where we put our Let's Watches, too.
Yeah, you can actually, yeah. We don't have to worry about being censored there. So, yeah.
So, this was an episode about stuff.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Y'all come back now, you hear?
All right there, folks. That was Our Moms Think We're Funny. Let's give them a hand.